Here it is, the game that sold me on Metroidvanias, the game that helped me discover what would become one of my favorite genres, and can you blame me? Ori and the Blind Forest is just a wonderful game. If you're like me, all you need is a glance at this game in motion to be convinced, but while I have the time, let's dive a little deeper. Ori and the Blind Forest starts off with a little story sequence. A very nice and cozy cutscene capped off with an emotional gut punch. As sad as the intro sequence is, I don't feel it was without purpose. It was done to really put you into Ori's shoes. Ori is a lost child. Their journey doesn't start by their own volition, instead they're thrust out into the world and forced to grow. It's a really effective way to keep the player moving, and tie the progression systems into the narrative. So while the intro was still heart-wrenching, at least it was effective storytelling. That brings us to the main game, which is also remarkably well done. The map design is full of interesting puzzles. The movement is pretty much perfect if you ask me. Super responsive, and the further you get, the more fun abilities you unlock, and it's just a joy to control all the way through. Obviously, the visuals and sounds are some of the best I've seen in a video game. I won't even begin to speculate how long it took the team to create all this artwork. It must have been a pain in the ass, but I think it more than paid off. To go along with this, the soundtrack sells the emotions of whichever scene you're in. Wonderfully orchestrated, and while they don't all stick with me, they do their job and then some. I've only got a couple problems with Ori, and unfortunately they kind of compound on each other. First, the combat isn't very fun or engaging. For how fluid and expressive the movement is, the combat by comparison is a bit of a letdown. Second, Ori has quite a big map, and the progression will have you zigzagging back and forth through a couple main areas. This makes trekking back and forth through previously visited areas kind of mind-numbing, and when you add the combat, I'm just beelining to the next area while spamming the X button. The Definitive Edition has fast travel, which can help, but my playthrough was on the Standard Edition, which sorely lacked that feature. But hey, I can't stay too mad at Ori and the Blind Forest. The game is too gorgeous and too much fun to move around in to say that this was anything other than a great game. There's not a lot of games these days that pull off such amazing aesthetics and tight gameplay, and while I think it has some structural problems, at least in the Standard Edition, it's still worth a play for anyone interested in a 2D adventure.
8 out of 10!